There was once a city that stood like no other. Constantinople, the jewel of the Roman Empire, the bridge between continents, and the dream of empires. For centuries, Muslims gazed upon its mighty walls, remembering the words of the Prophet Muhammad. Verily, you shall conquer Constantinople. What a wonderful commander will its commander be, and what a wonderful army will that army be. This prophecy burned in the hearts of generations. Sultan after sultan marched toward the city, only to be repelled by its impenetrable defenses. Its massive walls, its strategic waterways, its pride, Constantinople stood undefeated. But in the year 1432, a boy was born in Edirne, son of Sultan Murad II. His name was Muhammad. The world would one day call him al-Fatih, the Conqueror. From childhood, he was unlike other princes. He mastered languages: Arabic, Persian, Turkish, even Latin and Greek. He studied philosophy, science, astronomy, and above all, the Quran. But what burned brightest in his heart was that single hadith, the promise of Constantinople. At just 21 years old, fate placed the crown of the Ottoman Empire upon his head. The boy became sultan, and in 1453, he marched with a vast army, nearly 200,000 strong, towards the city that had defied Muslims for centuries. The Byzantines laughed. They had seen countless attempts fail. But they did not know Muhammad. This young sultan was not bound by fear or tradition. When his ships were blocked by the great chain that guarded the harbor, he dragged them overland, rolling them across hills and forests, and launched them back into the waters behind enemy lines. The defenders of the city looked on in disbelief. For 53 days the siege raged. The roar of cannons shook the walls. The determination of the Muslims grew stronger. And then, on May 29, 1453, the prophecy was fulfilled. Constantinople fell. The city of empires, the dream of generations, now flew the banner of Islam. And Sultan Muhammad al-Fatih became the man of destiny, the conqueror spoken of by the prophet. But for al-Fatih this was only the beginning. His eyes turned to another city, one even older, even more sacred. Jerusalem, al-Quds, the city of prophets, the land of al-Maqdis, the place where Solomon built his great temple, Haikal-e-Suleimani. And in his heart, the dream of Constantinople was followed by the dream of Jerusalem. Long before the rise of the Ottomans, before the fall of Constantinople, there was another city, ancient, sacred, and drenched in prophecy. Jerusalem, al-Quds, al-Maqdis. It was here that Prophet David, built his kingdom. It was here that Prophet Solomon, raised the great temple, known as Haikal-e-Suleimani, a sanctuary for the Ark of the Covenant, a place where the divine presence was said to dwell. For Jews, it was the holiest site. For Christians, the city where Jesus walked, preached, and was raised to the heavens. And for Muslims, it was the land of al-Isra wal-Miraj, the night journey of the Prophet Muhammad, where he ascended to the heavens from Masjid al-Aqsa. But Jerusalem's history was soaked in blood. The Crusaders had once stormed its walls in 1099, slaughtering its inhabitants. For nearly a century, it was under the banner of the cross, until a Muslim hero rose to reclaim it, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, Saladin. In 1187, he liberated the city, restoring it to Islam. Yet Jerusalem remained vulnerable. Powers rose and fell, Ayyubids, Mamluks, and always, the city's fate hung in the balance. By the 15th century, when Muhammad al-Fatih conquered Constantinople, Jerusalem was under the Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt. But al-Fatih's gaze stretched far beyond the walls of Byzantium. He knew that no empire could claim greatness without al-Maqdis. To hold Jerusalem was to hold the heart of prophecy itself. Historical chronicles tell us that al-Fatih often spoke of Jerusalem in his private circles. He saw Constantinople as a stepping stone, not the end. His ambition was an unbroken chain of conquest, from the Bosporus to the Holy Land. And why not? The city was more than stone and walls. It was a symbol of divine promise. It was the land of the prophets. It was where kingdoms clashed and faiths collided. But within Jerusalem lay another mystery, buried under the stones of the Temple Mount. Haikal-e-Suleimani. Some said the Ark of the Covenant, the Tablet al-Sakina mentioned in the Quran, was hidden beneath its ruins. Some whispered of secret chambers beneath Al-Aqsa, where treasures of the ancient world remained untouched. To control Jerusalem was not just a matter of faith, it was to hold the keys to secrets that could shape empires. And Sultan Muhammad al-Fatih, the man who had shattered the walls of Constantinople, was drawn by this mystery. He studied maps, listened to scholars, and reflected on the destiny of rulers before him. If Salahuddin could reclaim it, why not him? If Suleiman could build it, why not the Sultan who bore his spirit? But fate is a cruel master. For though his heart burned for Jerusalem, destiny had written another path. Al-Fatih's empire expanded across the Balkans, into Anatolia, across the Mediterranean. Yet al-Quds remained out of reach in his lifetime. Still, the Sultan's vision left a mark. For within his empire, whispers of Bayt al-Maqdis, the Temple of Solomon, and the Ark of the Covenant stirred imaginations. He had awakened a dream that would not die with him. Jerusalem waited, and the shadow of Haikal-e-Suleimani remained. Beneath the stones of Jerusalem lies one of the greatest mysteries in human history, Haikal-e-Suleimani, the Temple of Solomon. The Quran tells us that Allah granted Prophet Suleiman a kingdom unlike any other, armies of men, jinn, and birds. He commanded the winds, he spoke to the ants, and he built a sanctuary so sacred that even the angels descended upon it. That sanctuary was the temple. For centuries, the temple stood as the heart of Jerusalem. Within it was said to be the Tablet al-Sakina, the Ark of the Covenant, a chest of divine power holding the tablets of Moses, the staff of prophets, and the tranquility of Allah. Legends claim that as long as the Ark remained, victory was assured. When it disappeared, kingdoms crumbled. The Babylonians destroyed the temple once. The Romans destroyed it again. Yet whispers remained, that beneath the mount, chambers of Suleiman still existed. Chambers untouched, filled with secrets of the ancients. When the Crusaders seized Jerusalem in 1099, their knights, later known as the Templars, made their headquarters on the Temple Mount. Why? Some say they searched for hidden treasures, relics of immense power buried under the ruins. Others claim they uncovered knowledge that shaped their mysterious order. By the 15th century, these tales were known across the world, and Sultan Muhammad al-Fatih, conqueror of Constantinople, was no stranger to such legends. Scholars in his court told him of the temple. Islamic traditions spoke of Masjid al-Aqsa standing upon the sacred ground of Suleiman's sanctuary. And mystics whispered of the Ark of the Covenant, hidden, waiting to be found. For al-Fatih, this was no idle curiosity. He was a man of vision. To unite Islam, to strengthen his empire, to bring Jerusalem once again under a glorious sultan, these were not just dreams, but duties. Imagine it. The Sultan who took Constantinople, standing in Jerusalem, uncovering the Ark itself. Such an act would have placed him among the greatest rulers in history, rivaling even Suleiman the prophet. But destiny did not allow him to march upon al-Quds. His battles were in Europe, against Hungarians, Venetians, Wallachians. His empire expanded westward while his dream pulled him eastward. Still, al-Fatih's fascination left a shadow that lingered over the centuries. The Ottomans after him would guard Jerusalem for more than 400 years. And though he himself never entered the city, his spirit seemed to watch over it, waiting, longing. For the mystery of Haikal-e-Suleimani is eternal. Empires have risen and fallen upon it. Crusaders, sultans, emperors, all have sought its secrets. And in the heart of Sultan al-Fatih, the conqueror of Constantinople, Jerusalem and its hidden temple burned like an unfulfilled prophecy. After the conquest of Constantinople, Sultan Muhammad al-Fatih's star only rose higher. He became the shadow of Allah on earth, the sword of Islam, the ruler feared and respected across 2 continents. His empire stretched from the Black Sea to the Adriatic, from the deserts of Anatolia to the gates of Europe. He fought the Venetians on the seas, the Hungarians on the plains, and the Wallachians in the forests. He stood against Vlad Dracula himself, the Impaler, who would later inspire tales of monsters. He crushed rebellions, expanded borders, and built Istanbul into a new capital of Islam. But no matter how far his armies marched, one city remained etched in his soul, Jerusalem. He listened to scholars who spoke of Al-Aqsa, the land of Isra wal Miraj. He heard tales of Salahuddin Ayyubi, who had once liberated the city. He read of Suleiman, who had built the temple that even now lay in ruins. It is said that late in his reign, when his beard had grown gray and his body weary, al-Fatih spoke often of Al-Quds. Constantinople was his crown. But Jerusalem was his longing. History tells us that in 1481, the Sultan prepared for a great campaign. The details remain shrouded in mystery. Some chronicles claim he was heading west, to crush the Italian states. Others whisper he was preparing for the east, to march towards Beit al-Maqdis, to bring Jerusalem into the arms of his empire. The truth may never be known. For before he could ride, before his armies could move, fate intervened. On May 3, 1481, Sultan Muhammad al-Fatih fell ill during his campaign. Some say it was poison. Some say it was the weight of years. But whatever the cause, the great conqueror breathed his last. He was only 49 years old. The world shook. The man who had taken Constantinople, who had shattered the Roman Empire, who dreamed of Jerusalem, was gone. His body was laid to rest in Istanbul, under a dome, near the city he had transformed forever. But his dream of Beit al-Maqdis remained unfulfilled. Jerusalem would not come under Ottoman hands until decades later, when his descendants carried the banner forward. For nearly 4 centuries, the city would remain under Ottoman protection until the First World War. And so the legacy of Sultan al-Fatih lives on, not only in the stones of Istanbul, not only in the fear of Europe, but in the whispers of Jerusalem. The conqueror of Constantinople, the Sultan who dreamed of Jerusalem, the man whose eyes burned with prophecy, but whose destiny ended before the gates of Al-Quds. Perhaps this was Allah's will. For some dreams are not meant to be fulfilled by one man. Some dreams are meant to echo across the ages. He conquered a city of empires, but his heart belonged to the city of prophet. By the late 1470s, Sultan Muhammad al-Fatih had become the most feared monarch in the known world. He was no longer just the conqueror of Constantinople. He was the lion of the Ottomans, the man whose shadow stretched across 2 continents. His armies had humbled the Hungarians in the Balkans. His fleets clashed with Venetians on the seas. He subdued Serbia, Bosnia, Albania, and Morea. Even Italy trembled, for his soldiers had set foot in Otranto, threatening Rome itself. And yet, amid all his victories, one dream never left him. Jerusalem, Al-Quds, the city of prophets. Chroniclers whisper that in his court, he often spoke of Beit al-Maqdis. He admired Salahuddin Ayyubi, the liberator of the holy city, and saw himself as destined to follow in his footsteps. To conquer Constantinople was to wear the crown of prophecy. But to take Jerusalem, that would be to touch the very heart of divine history. In 1480, the Sultan launched one of his most ambitious campaigns, the invasion of Italy. His forces landed at Otranto, seizing a foothold on European soil. Panic spread through Christendom. Many feared that the man who had broken Byzantium now aimed to march on Rome itself. But behind the curtain of strategy, some historians believe the Sultan's true eyes were set eastward, toward Jerusalem, toward the Temple Mount, toward Haikal-e-Suleimani. In early 1481, he began preparations for a massive campaign. The destination was kept secret, known only to the Sultan and a handful of his advisors. Was it Italy again? Or was it Jerusalem? We may never know for certain. But whispers in Ottoman chronicles suggest that the Sultan's armies were gathering in Anatolia, not in Europe. And that could mean only one thing. His eyes were on the Mamluks, and beyond them, the holy city itself. But fate is a cruel master. On May 3, 1481, during this campaign, Sultan Muhammad suddenly fell gravely ill. His soldiers carried him in a litter as the army pressed forward. But the Sultan's strength waned. Within days, the Lion of Constantinople was dead. He was only 49 years old. The cause of his death remains a mystery. Some claim it was poison, administered by agents of Venice or even by rivals within his court. Others say it was simply illness. Whatever the truth, the result was the same. The world lost one of its greatest conquerors. The Ottoman army halted. The secret of its campaign died with the Sultan. And Jerusalem remained beyond his grasp. He was buried in Istanbul, near the city he had immortalized. His tomb still stands, a silent reminder of the man who changed the course of history. But as mourners wept, one truth haunted them: the Sultan's greatest dream had gone unfulfilled. He had conquered the greatest fortress of Christendom. He had shattered the Roman Empire. He had humbled kings and crushed armies. But he had not taken Jerusalem. Perhaps it was Allah's will. For some victories are not meant for one man. Some dreams must pass from hand to hand, across generations, until their time comes. Sultan Muhammad al-Fatih left behind an empire. But more than that, he left behind a vision. A vision of al-Quds. A vision of prophecy. A vision that would burn in the hearts of Ottomans for centuries. When Sultan Muhammad al-Fatih died in 1481, the world mourned. The conqueror of Constantinople, the man of prophecy, was gone. Yet his empire endured, his vision echoing in the hearts of his successors. For nearly 4 decades after his death, Jerusalem remained under the rule of the Mamluks of Egypt. But the Ottomans, strengthened by al-Fatih's conquests, grew bolder with each passing year. His descendants inherited his fire. His dream did not die with him. In 1517, his great-grandson, Sultan Selim I, known as Yavuz the Grim, marched into Egypt. The Mamluks were crushed. Their empire collapsed. And with their fall, Jerusalem passed into Ottoman hands. At last, the city of prophets was under the banner of the Crescent. The dream of al-Fatih had been fulfilled, though not by him, but by the blood of his blood. For the next 4 centuries, the Ottomans guarded al-Quds. They restored its mosques, protected its shrines, and preserved its sanctity. The dome of the rock gleamed in gold. Al-Aqsa stood in strength. Pilgrims came from every corner of the Muslim world, safe under Ottoman rule. Yet even in triumph, the mysteries of Jerusalem endured. Beneath the Temple Mount, the question of Haikal-e-Suleimani remained. What lay hidden beneath those ancient stones? Did chambers of Suleiman still exist? Was the Ark of the Covenant truly buried there, waiting to be discovered? The Crusaders had searched. The Templars had dug. Scholars speculated. Sultans dreamed. But the truth was never revealed. Perhaps it was not meant to be. Perhaps some secrets are too great for men to hold. And so Jerusalem, the city of prophets, remained what it had always been: eternal, untamed, mysterious. As for Sultan Muhammad al-Fatih, his legacy lived far beyond his years. He was remembered not only as the conqueror of Constantinople, but as the Sultan who dared to dream of Jerusalem. A dream left unfinished, but not forgotten. History is not always written in victories. Sometimes it is written in the longing of the heart, in the dreams that outlive men. The prophet's prophecy crowned al-Fatih with Constantinople. But his heart belonged to al-Quds. And so, when one looks upon the golden dome of the rock, or walks the ancient streets of Jerusalem, perhaps one still hears the echo of a sultan's footsteps: Muhammad al-Fatih, the conqueror who dreamed of the city of prophets. Like the story? Smash that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to Throne Unknown, where forgotten kings and mad queens live again.